Hi, welcome to my channel.
I am going to be making sourdough sandwich bread, starting it today, probably cooking it tomorrow. I have my unfed starter that is hungry, so we're gonna start with a feed and see if we can do a bulk rent in the fridge overnight.
I use King Arthur bread flour for all of my feeds, and I have great results. I did 75 grams of flour and 75 grams of warm water. I didn't do a discard with this feed because I like to have more than enough starter for each recipe that I use. So I gave that a mix, and then I put it in the sun because it definitely rises a lot quicker when it's warm. I'm gonna monitor this for the next 4 to 5 hours.
So the starter has peaked and it's starting to deflate, so I think we are good to go. We're gonna start with 125 grams of starter. Zero out the scale, and 325 grams of warm water. I like to take it off the scale and give it a little mix. Zero out the scale again, 12 grams of sugar. Zero it out, I'm gonna do 12 grams of oil. I use olive oil. I'm gonna go in 500 grams of flour. I actually use all-purpose flour for the sandwich bread. It comes out awesome. Okay. And then we will zero out and 12 grams of salt. A little bit more. Perfect. All right, so I'm done with the scale. I do start the mix in the bowl, but I will end up mixing it on the table because I always do. I know you're not supposed to use metal with sourdough. I do it anyway.
Like I said, I cannot help myself but mix it on the table. So here I go, dumping it out. So here I'm gonna knead it just a little bit, and then I do something called slap and folds. When you slap the dough, fold it onto itself and just do that repetitively for, I think I did this at least 5 minutes. I did it until I felt like all of the ingredients were totally mixed in. You can kind of see the dough start to take shape right about now. It gets a little bit easier, but still sticky. And I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit because this takes a while. And here we are, about 5 minutes later, and you can see that the dough is much more strong. This technique is great for building the gluten structure and the overall strength of the dough. So now you're just gonna flop it into your bowl.
So this is all mixed. Now I like to cover it with a shower cap. I'm gonna give it a 30-minute rest, and then we're gonna come in for the first set of stretch and folds.
So here is our first set of stretch and folds. So you're gonna take the cover off, and it is essentially just how it sounds. You're gonna take the dough, you're gonna stretch it up without ripping it, and fold it over. Turn your bowl and do this 3 more times. And if it's a little bit sticky, that's totally normal. I recommend just wetting your hand with water opposed to flour because you don't want your dough to be dry. So you'll see me doing that in this video clip. We're gonna do 4 rounds of these stretch and folds and wait 30 minutes in between each set. So it's gonna be a total of 2 hours. Each time you'll definitely notice the dough gets stronger and stronger, and it just stretches way better. So you're gonna finish up with your 4, I'm gonna cover it up if my baby will let me. And then we'll see you in a half hour for the next round of stretch and folds. Here we are for the second round. We're gonna speed this one up because you know the drill. You just go in and you do your 4 stretch and folds, turn in the bowl, And you can already see the dough is getting a little bit more strong and is just pulling better. Cover it up and we'll see you in 30. Third round, here we go. Here is our fourth and final set of stretch and folds.
So that is it for the stretch and folds. Now I'm going to put it in the fridge overnight as it bulk ferments, and we'll check back in the morning. Okay, so it has been 13 hours and we are definitely more than doubled. We have some air pockets and very slow to little no spring back. Still kind of stuck to the bowl. I'm gonna leave it covered and let it come up to room temperature for an hour or so and we'll check back. Okay, so it's been a little over an hour. Definitely looking a lot better now that it's warmed up.
We're gonna start shaping. I lightly floured the table and dumped out the dough. And now I'm gonna just flatten it out into a rectangle. I'm gonna try and pop any air bubbles that I see, because if you don't, you'll end up with these big air pockets, and that's not really ideal with sandwich bread. So this is a sped up version of me popping out the air bubbles and stretching it into the rectangle. You want to be careful not to rip the dough and just handle it very gently. This part's optional, but I like to get a dough roller and just roll it out a little bit because it makes it a little more obvious where the air pockets are. I'm not putting much pressure on the dough. I'm really just doing it to roll out some of the air. Now to form it into the loaf shape, I take one end and fold it halfway and the other end halfway. And here is where I messed up. I folded it again when I was supposed to roll it, but that's okay. It still turned out all right. So here I am just tucking in the sides and then pulling it into itself with some tension. Now the dough goes into the loaf pan, seam side down, to make sure, of course, your loaf pan is greased. I normally do parchment paper, but I did run out. And you have to use what you got.
Now we're gonna let this rise again until it's nice and puffy and crowning the top of it, probably another hour or two, and we'll check back again before we bake it. So it has been 2 hours and it rose a little bit, but it's not as puffy as I would like it. But I think it might be overproofed. We're gonna bake it and just see how it comes out. So we're gonna throw it in the oven for 35 minutes at 375 degrees. This is it at 35 minutes, so we're gonna go a little longer. And here she is. I ended up doing an extra 5 minutes in the oven. Now the hard part is waiting for this to cool. I'm gonna put it onto a drying rack just so the bottom doesn't get soft. Looks pretty good to me. Nice and squishy. And the most important part, the taste test. All right, we're gonna do a taste test. Sourdough sandwich bread.
And there we have an overnight sourdough sandwich loaf. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy.